Audioverse has responded to why they removed all the sermons of Dr. Vine from their platform. So we are going to look at their response and react to it. Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Recently, Audioverse, or the leaders of Audioverse, removed the sermons of Dr. Vine from the Audioverse platform, and now they have released the reason why they removed all the videos of Dr. Vine from the Audioverse platform. So I'm going to read this from the Advent Messenger's website. I hope you've seen this response on other social media platforms, but I want us to really look at the statement again, because I can see that canceling or removing Dr. Vine's sermon is not going to solve the problem. All right, so let's look at it. It says, the reason Conrad Vine was removed from Audioverse is because our spiritual integrity committee does not find him to be in harmony with the spirit of Audioverse, which are the guidelines that determine what is posted on Audioverse. While the committee has appreciated many of Conrad's presentations over the years, they have also observed a disturbing trend of either careless, reckless, or intentionally subversive statements that are very closely akin to calling the Seventh-day Adventist church structure Babylon. In a message on January 28, 2023, Conrad stated that, as a worldwide Seventh-day Adventist church, we entered the pandemic as Protestants and we exited as a papal system. His most recent remarks in the main camp meeting suggesting that the Seventh-day Adventist Church and its leadership are so morally compromised that we may need to consider a parachurch movement that is independent of the governance of the established Adventist denominational structure, and thus sits in judgment regarding the faithfulness of conferences are a natural progression along the trajectory of this thinking. Despite our hopes for a change in his course, we believe it's our duty to act at this time in light of this escalated rhetoric in violation of our stated values. The position of Audioverse is clear. We believe that the Seventh-day Adventist Church is the final movement delineated in prophecy, and that there will not be a God-led movement to call believers to fidelity to another or a purer organization. A careful study of the many offshoot movements of Adventism reveals a disturbing pattern that is closely mirrored by the messages, attitudes, and spirit of Mr. Vine and his adherents. Anecdotally, a member in our committee heard directly from an individual whom he personally brought into Adventism, who now intends on leaving the church because of Conrad's recent messages. We appeal to Mr. Vine and his listeners to consider where the movement is heading. Listen not to what one says, but to what one teaches. This is not to say members in our committee agree with everything the church ever does. We have a diversity of opinions within our own team regarding the church's actions and decisions during the COVID pandemic and on numerous other topics. But we are in agreement that the Adventist Church is still God's remnant church, that declaring independence from the wider body of believers is not appropriate, and that Conrad's criticisms go too far and his suggested remedies are such that will result in far greater harm than good. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, we find Conrad to be out of harmony with clear counsel from the spirit of prophecy on these points. here are just a few references out of many that could be shared. And friends, they listed many of Ellen White's quotes, and I want to read only one of them to you. It says, "Again I say, the Lord has not spoken by any messenger who calls the only church in the world that keeps the commandments of God Babylon. True, there is chaff with the wheat, but first gather the chaff and bind it into bundles to burn it. But gather the wheat into the garner. I know that the Lord loves his church. It is not to be disorganized or broken up into independent atoms. There is not the least consistency in this. There is not the least evidence that such a thing will be. Those who shall heed this false message and try to leaven others will be deceived and prepared to receive advanced delusions. They will come to naught." And they ended the statement by saying, "We encourage each of us to remain faithful to the counsel from the Lord." So friends, that was the statement released by the leaders of the Audioverse platform, explaining why they removed all of the videos of Dr. Vine from the Audioverse platform. But what I think is that removing Dr. Vine from the platform or Audioverse platform is not going to solve the problem. The problem is some conferences in the North American division are compromising. They are compromising. That is the problem that needs to be addressed. And why am I saying this? The conferences have influence over the churches under them. And so if some of the conferences are compromising, they may also lead the churches under those conferences to compromise. It is very clear. It is very, very clear. If you have a head that is compromising, it is likely that the followers or the tail will also compromise. And God does not want his church to compromise. That is why he sent messages of warnings to the churches as found in Revelation chapters 2 and 3. The conferences, the unions, the divisions, and the general conference, they are not the church. The church is the body of believers. So friends, I think all those individuals and platforms and ministries counseling Dr. Vine are missing the point. They should tackle the main issue of compromises. And if that issue is solved, then all other things will be also solved. Personally, I believe that if what Dr. Vine said in Maine was the truth, no one can stop it. No one can stop it if what Dr. Vine said in Maine was the truth. And also, if it was not the truth, friends, it will not go anywhere. It won't. So, this is all that I had to share with you concerning the response by Audioverse. Let me also know what you think about what they did and the cancel culture in the SDA church. Thanks for watching. Happy Sabbath.